Chose to be online, okay.
You're all set.
All right. I would ask for a motion to approve the May minutes.
Now that I have read the correct minutes, yes.
What did you read?
Okay.
Another month?
Well, I read the WAC minutes thinking.
Well, what, how did they sound?
There was curmudgeonly, he said, no, I was gonna ask her to do something, and I'm gonna email it to her now.
And I was upset because I can't understand how I read the minutes and didn't find anything wrong, and he comes in and automatically says there's something
Go to
wrong.
item 7, and, well, no, that doesn't look like item 7, that's chairperson.
Well, in any case.
Yes, I move that we accept.
All right.
I second the motion.
Are there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. We're just doing a little switch up of the agenda. Joe is online and he's going to present the WAC request for funding for additional well testing. So at that moment, now I'll turn it over to Joe.
Yeah, thanks everyone for having me. Purpose of me being here tonight is just to share with you progress or some forward movement on expanding our water testing program, private well water testing program, reflecting on what the committee, the WQI committee had funded already for our center effort. We're looking to expand this project now into the Menantic Peninsula. A few changes to the program have been proposed by the WAC. The first is that we're going to seek a partnership with the Suffolk County Department of Health to actually collect and analyze the tests. The Suffolk County Health Department already has a program in place for private well tests, where for a $100 fee, anyone in Suffolk County that has a private well can sign up to have their water collected and analyzed by the county's laboratory. The test includes a full spectrum potability test, the same as if you had installed a new well and had to demonstrate that it was safe to put into service. And so compared to our center effort, this would be a large expansion of testing profile. So we tested simply for nitrates and other wastewater related contaminants in the center. Now we're going to be offering for a lesser price about 200 plus components for the water test. The proposed arrangement will be that the town picks up the cost of the $100 test, so long as the homeowner or property owner agrees to participate. And we're looking to send out an introductory letter about this opportunity in the coming weeks before the end of the month. We're trying to target a collection in the late summer and fall. So there's no action needed by this committee this evening. This is simply an informative talk that I'm here for. So I'm just trying to get on your radar and collect any feedback about the program. We've not formally announced the details of this yet publicly, so we have the opportunity to craft our message according to various town stakeholders. We're working closely with the Menantic, I forget the exact acronym that they use, but the Menantic Peninsula Property Owners.
I think it's an HOA.
It's an, yeah. Do you know what it's actually formally called, Greg?
I thought Menantic Peninsula HOA, but I could be wrong.
Okay, that's good enough for here. The Menantic Peninsula HOA, they're going to be our primary boots on the ground contact to help spread the word amongst their group. This isn't limited to folks who are in the HOA. You may or may not officially be in the HOA. You're certainly welcome to participate, but we're hoping to use their communication channels to help spread the word. They have a lengthy email list of folks in the area. And the reason why we want to leverage that relationship is because we don't really have the time to send out a formal mailing to everyone like we did last time via snail mail. So we're trying to expedite this process through an announcement type communication campaign, and then a digital request to participate. So folks would either stop by town hall and let them know, or they would do so on the town website. We're going to build a way for folks to commit to the test on there to eliminate the back and forth. I don't know if any of you participated in the center effort, but it was somewhat slow going with the communication because we drafted a letter, then we sent it snail mail to everybody. Then we gave them like a month to respond, but folks had a postcard that they could return. So we waited for that to be received, and then somebody processed all the postcards. And in any case, it got quite lengthy, and we're trying to streamline that a little bit. So in terms of numbers, since we'd be asking this committee for the funding, we're hoping that we will get anywhere between 50 and 100 participants. So at $100, $100 a test, that's the range with which we would be seeking funding from this committee. Yep.
Is there any intention to include Montclair or the Silver Beach area or any other area?
Yeah, for this stage, we're certainly not including Silver Beach, not because they're not a priority, just because we have a very limited window to pull this off for the first time, to get it in that sensitive period of late summer, early fall. The health department had expressed concerns that if we were opening up the field to more than that 50 to 100 participant range, that they wouldn't be able to achieve all of those tests being collected and sampled within a reasonable amount of time. So it's not to say we don't care for the Silver Beach folks. The WAC has committed to continuing this testing program in additional neighborhoods. So I expect that we'll be visiting Silver Beach soon. So this is, I don't want to say a dry run or a test run, but we're trying to keep this deliberately small so that we can achieve the schedule that's become the expectation.
Montclair is included in that.
Oh, it is included.
Yes, this would.
Atlantic Peninsula, right?
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, at this stage, it's the full Menantic Peninsula.
That like up to Smith or?
That's yet to be decided where the exact border is. Where we want to be as inclusive as possible. There are some areas where the peninsula abuts directly to where we finished the center test, so that perhaps may make sense if you are, on Smith Street, for instance, and you were in the center test. We perhaps wouldn't want you to be in this test as well. But I don't know that that's fair either. So we're working on that is the answer, I suppose.
And is there going to be additional encouragement to entice homeowners to share, their specific results?
Yes. There's been a number of calls for additional detail in terms of specific addresses, and we're working on the language for that message now. At this stage, it seems like we would promote sharing your results if you so wanted to, and we'd encourage it. And we are visiting what that might look like if we mandated that folks sent their specific results in, or that the specific results would be sent directly to the town as well, and we would just have them. So Greg can elaborate on his position on that, because he's been part of the WAC discussion, which is ongoing. And it's not to say that anyone is opposed to or strictly opposed to one way or the other. I think we're just trying to find that balance between what's most useful data, since it's town sponsored, and also to encourage participation. If folks don't participate because they don't want this information shared, but they would be willing to participate if the information was shared a bit more vaguely, we have to balance the pros and cons of that.
I guess since you have a limit of 50 to 100, that gives you the latitude to say, we only have X number of positions for you to join in this study, and we need to get the values. We need to get the values by location. I think that that kind of merges nicely with what you're saying about the maximum number that you could do. I think anyway. There was earlier on, there was a question about whether Suffolk County Department of Health Services would in truth release the numbers to us and the addresses. Has that been studied? Has that been clarified?
That's not resolved at this time. Still ongoing. I've submitted that question to them, whether they could release this information to us. They're looking into it as well, because this is not a typical relationship for the program that they offer. Typically, who pays them is the same person who gets the results. In this case, we would be paying them for somebody else's property. So similarly, they didn't say it couldn't be done. They're going to look into it.
Probably would be a good time to have the town attorney put together something real quick that says, we will pay the $100 fee, and because we have made an agreement with the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, they're gonna push this and make this happen quickly and not 6 or 8 or 12 months down the road. But this is the agreement. It's very similar to what we have in the conditional rebates for the WQI, for the IA systems. When you do that, you say, I will share any information that came out of this study here, including their final and periodic maintenance results. So that would be something I think to put on Stephen's desk right now, even if it's, if that happened now, you'd be in a position to say, here is what we're being asked to do by, well, one person anyway.
I think possibly paving the way, unlike the center effort, you have a homeowners association behind you. Perhaps we can use them to help get people to share the information. Like to say, hey, it's a great effort, and it'll be much more valuable if we know the locations, and so maybe they can assist in that.
Yeah, even, I certainly, I have had no interaction with with the Shelter Island Association, the association of all the HOAs and all that.
Right, I'm talking about the Peninsula people.
Well, I mean, just bring it up, make that presentation to some future meeting.
Well, I mean, I don't know, I imagine we have a contact for them. You guys have that. We could, I'm sure you're gonna reach out, try and get them to be, helpful in that regard.
Yeah. So we've had two conversations now with the homeowners association representatives. Both times they've expressed concern about eliminating the anonymity. They're speaking simply from from instinct, not from any count or hard data, but they felt that would be discouraging to some folks who may have otherwise participated. They were reflecting that the culture there is somewhat inherently secretive about their water quality issues, and has been. On the flip side to that, part of this process and effort is to help bring awareness to water quality issues. And so simply by promoting the test, there's the underlying message of trying to encourage folks just simply to get their water tested. So, it's a multifaceted effort, and there's different avenues for value to the town. We know now from talking with the health department, for instance, that even though they've had this very low cost program for many, many years, almost no one on Shelter Island has historically participated. So even with this low cost, folks either didn't know or didn't want to pursue this test. So I think it's important to stress that there's value in the outreach, educational awareness component of this, and trying to just get folks to test their water, period. I could tell you from our initial conversations with the attorneys, both at the health department and on the town level, there is reservation about having all of the data unconditionally because of uncertainty as to what we're actually going to do with it. If folks do have non-potable water and we are the holders of this information, there was concern about what we would do with that information. On the flip side, again, as you've just mentioned, there are multiple examples in town where we expect, some sort of a privacy release vis-a-vis the septic rebate program. So I don't think that any of these things are insurmountable. It's just a number of moving parts here. There's a couple of variables at play, and once we advance this effort further, we'll have a better sense of what knobs we can turn to increase the value of the data and keep that balance of participation up. I'd also add that, at this stage, we don't have a preliminary draft of what a zone breakdown would be. If the zones were quite large, that decreases the accuracy of the data. But if perhaps, we run into a roadblock for whatever reason about getting address specific data, but we're able to get zones as small as a block or two, that might suffice as well. So the concept we used for breaking out zones in the center test was by watershed. Some of them were large, some of them were small. Some of them you could look at and sort of deduce what was there already. But we don't have to keep that concept for a smaller territory like the Bonanza Peninsula. We might be able to just simply break it down by block and step away from this watershed concept. So if for whatever reason the address approach doesn't work, we have other tools to increase the accuracy of the program as well. And I don't see that as an obstacle for moving this forward. I think this program is fantastic from several different angles, and I hope it can be supported from all levels of the town.
I would hope that, anybody, practically speaking, anybody who's going to sell their house is going to end up having to have a water test. The buyer's going to want a water test, whatever. But if they did have non-potable water, you'd think that would be something that they'd want help with, and that's why they're, interested in finding out about this. And I don't think it's any negative thing cast on anyone. I mean, it's something that's why we're doing this. That's why we're concerned about water.
I totally agree. And just because potability is a very vague term, folks all over the island have, by definition, non-potable water because their iron limits are too high or their manganese levels are too high. And some issues for potability are very easily corrected, and it's not a reason to necessarily panic. It's something that's just naturally occurring. There are many other things that are reason to be concerned. And so I would hope that, like you said, people would realize they are subject to water tests for many other reasons, and really there's only good news that can come out of knowing this. The worst thing that can happen is you just turn a blind eye and you pretend like if you don't know, it can't hurt.
Everything's good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you had said, you had alluded to the fact that this program has been available from the health department for a long time, which it has, but traditionally it was an onerous wait to get them to come and get it done and get results. I mean, it was months usually. Are they on board with fast tracking this? Should this go ahead?
To the best of their ability, and
that's
to the best of their, exactly. But in their defense, they have said the purpose of this program isn't to give folks sort of an instantaneous read on their water. The purpose of this discounted program for private well owners is for them to routinely have their water tested. You're eligible once per year, and that's how the program was designed. So, they are able to offer it at a discount because this sits, and it used to be free actually, but their lab runs tests that are required, for other functions within the health department, and they use these tests as a way to fill back time in the lab. And so sometimes they sit for a while before they can be properly processed, and was always sort of known to be a second priority. I don't know if that's the right way to call it, but if folks needed historically, a test on short order or a specific test, that's always been the role of the private market, and they operate very carefully to not take business away from private companies that do water testing. So they have expressed a sympathy in trying to move this forward. They have said that effort would be focused on getting the samples collected within a shorter window so that the accuracy of the data is within a similar window. But they did acknowledge that, look, it could be several months before we do have all of these test results back. And I think for our purposes, that's okay. From a value perspective, we paid $100, around $100 for a discounted test panel that we did in the center. And for slightly less money, you're getting a test that's, probably worth 10 times that much, in the thousands of dollar range for $100. So if, there's some concessions to be made for that, I think they're well worth it.
Definitely, I think the point you made about the collection, getting that sort of done in a timely manner, so that your apples to apples kind of comparison, rain wise and all that stuff.
I think it's very important right now too, because at the last the May result we have on the well heights, 9 of the 13 are as high as they have ever been in May. So
I believe it.
There's a lot of water down there, and if you wound up getting a third of the samples of this month and a third the next month and a third the month after that, you're likely going to see differences that have nothing to do, that you won't be able to figure out how that relationship might be. I think you also, in terms of the zone, and I presume that we'll look at this, the zone concept versus individual, and that we'll have both of them. The two things would be the height of water in the aquifer, in that it seems to me like testing this now would be like we'd be testing the water flow as high as it ever is. And you might look at this and say, well, you know what, that fresh water is pushing out that salt, and we don't, we thought we had trouble with salt, and we don't. And then they come back down and they're at the 50% percentile. And they say, gee, the salt water's rushing back in. And that's something that it's important to get the samples at the same time. Because if you don't do that, you wind up with fluky numbers, I think. And the other thing is the distance to the shoreline and the relative elevation of the peninsula. I think the peninsula starts at sea level, and it goes up at least to 10. It might go up to 15 feet. So what's happening there? If you make the zone imprecisely to the topology of the land, you're liable to find out funny numbers that will be as much the impact of the elevation over the aquifer than the aquifer itself. That would be the 2 points that I would make on that.
Joe, what happens if the county does the test and it comes up? Forget what Shelter Island may or may not do. What does the county do? Do they have any responsibility to tell somebody you can't drink your water, you got to get bottled water?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this test would be no different than if an individual had just signed up for the same test. So what happens is they'll collect the sample, they run the analysis. Depending on the results, the county issues you a tailored response addressing what your issues are, what might cause them, or what might be the cause of them, and recommendations for remedy. So that same process will happen now. If you participate in this program, your individual sample will get collected, and then you will have, call it customized results sent to you, and the county will assist you with a solution. Because it's a private well, they can't, there are a lot of limitations as to what they can enforce you to do or not enforce you to do. And they're very familiar with those limits. But in terms of the individual, they will have a complete set of data and a complete set of recommendations for the issue that may be at hand. And so at that juncture is where it's usually handed off. Some instances, the county's able to mandate that you do something about it. Those are typically cases where the property is being sold, or there's a permit for substantial work being done, or there's it's a commercial property or a property where the public consumes water. But for the most part, if it's a private well, there isn't a whole lot that they can do. They can tell you that you need to do this, but for the most part, they can't force you to.
So if you want to drink salt water,
It's
we
up to you.
can't stop you. What's your address so I can buy some home life insurance for you?
What do you think the schedule is before you actually come back with the actual request, which I guess you'll do in writing as well?
Yeah, so I sent you, James, a preliminary synopsis of what we're looking at. I'm waiting, sort of the next step is to get some more confirmation from the county. I guess an official go, that they can hit these project timelines, and also that we get those answers resolved about, anonymity, liability, et cetera, et cetera. I'm hoping that will be, in the next week or two. Simultaneously, we're going to be sending out this announcement about the program to the homeowners association and the town website, et cetera, et cetera. But I think in terms of funding, we're pretty locked in on that number. So the request, may come to this committee at the next month's meeting, because we have to be sure we can set up public hearing on this, get it to the town board. There's some procedural mechanics around how this might actually play out. So I would expect by your next meeting, you'll hear me again. And by next meeting, I don't recall if you're meeting monthly or bi-monthly, but I mean 1 month from now.
Monthly right now.
Yeah.
Right, that's
Yeah.
it's
Schedule,
the end of this month.
yeah, it's the 28th, I believe, because of 4th of July.
Because of 4th of July.
Yeah, whatever the regular meeting is.
Okay, so I'll be mindful of that schedule, and I'll reach out, requesting time again.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Joe forwarded some update status to you on this?
He had just, sort of gave an overview of what they've,
I'd love to see it.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't seen anything like that.
it's not, it wasn't a very detailed thing. It was just that.
It was just a request to be at this meeting,
Request to be
essentially.
in on the
Okay, yeah,
agenda.
yeah, I think that,
I'm happy to forward it to you.
good, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Joe? Thank you.
Okay,
We'll be
yeah,
in
thanks
touch.
for having me.
You bet. Okay. Okay, so for reasons that I cannot quite fathom, and I, being no genius, I was unable to use the fillable form to do a report for the Roar application. And this has always given me a problem, and my computer was like dead. So I didn't actually get to fill the thing in, but I did review the thing. Most importantly, I did talk to the building department. There was a question that they had plans to renovate their basement area,
And add a bathroom.
add a bathroom, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but, the building department has no knowledge of any applications or any work pending for that particular project or property. I think, making it clear, which I've done already, that, it's, a 3-year wait period before anything happens. If it's a project that involves expansion of bedroom count or whatever, if that exercise room is actually a bedroom, there's that there's in that 3-year period, they would be required to give back the money. So that will reiterate and make very clear in our communication with them going forward. They do, have a fair amount of occupancy there, up to like 6.7 kilograms of nitrogen a year. It's near Fresh Pond. It's in the watershed of Fresh Pond, where nitrogen is not that big a deal in Fresh Pond itself, but Fresh Pond is a conduit to the, Dickerson Creek and Manana Creek. So I think for that reason, it's another good good reason to make the grant. And they're unsure about whether they have to move their well. So that would be, when they're unsure, it wasn't just a no, we don't have to do it. I think we would add that into the amount, so that would probably come to 16,000. It's not a pressurized shallow drain field. They have Homeport Engineering as their engineer. So most of the boxes have been checked, with the exception of my actually getting it in on paper. But I will do that and disseminate that.
What's the status of their existing system? Are they,
The house is 50 years old. The system is an antiquated block. It's, going to, it's not in good shape. So I don't know that they've had a pump out in the last,
2021.
right. So it wasn't like, pump out after pump out after pump out, but I mean, it's the writing sort of on the wall. So they appear to be doing the right thing. The only wrinkle that we saw was the possibility of that lower level renovation. But according to Brett Polshak at the building department, there's nothing on record of any kind of permits.
is it anticipated that the county will approve this? Or, because I know that there was that whole business about the county saying,
Not having
well, it's
money.
gotta be an emergency, it's, oh, you're.
Well, I
Okay,
can't
thanks for the-
answer that 100%. They applied.
Have they selected a contractor yet? I know that you say they've had the
They
engineer.
do have a contractor, Shelter Island Sand and Gravel. Rise. They do have water treatment, so they're gonna need to put a leaching,
Try well.
for that. And otherwise, it looks pretty straightforward. So I'll get this in some kind of readable form for you. I mean, we won't need to necessarily discuss it unless there are questions after you see the thing.
Right.
And we can just vote on it next.
Yeah, 28th would be fine.
Yeah, this month still, yeah, right. So I didn't see any huge rush other than I wanted to throw this through the wall, but it's okay. But I did make my granddaughter's recital, so that was.
Yes.
Outreach initiatives, Julia had, unfortunately her puppy passed away, which is always a heart rendering, unfortunate, terrible thing. So I think, she will, she's working on it and is going to come back to us. I reached out to Meg after our last meeting to try and have her kind of give us a consolidated, overview of how the systems that they're monitoring are performing. I think that's a big deal about, trying to, entice people to do it.
Right, that they actually do work.
That they work and people are satisfied with them and whatnot. And there's also information from Fuji Clean. I said, well, could we get Fuji Clean here, like a rep to, or some kind of something that would, give people more information or anything like that, that would, say how important it is and how well they perform or whatever. And the last thing I asked about was if were there any updates on the next generation of these systems that would actually take out other things as well, whether it be phosphorus or, pharmaceuticals or whatever, so I'd like to sort of get that into one, manageable piece of information that, but she's a little busy, so I'll give her that much. But, she's going to work on that.
I was part of that,
Right.
and I had forgotten this from the previous meeting, so I hadn't done anything, but when I saw her note, look back. What I started to do was, it's basically, it's the pre-COVID systems that were approved. And so I got their names, I have their landlines. But for some reason I didn't, I don't see the applications in our SharePoint. You know, there was the.
Who used
Yeah.
what system, you mean?
Yeah, what system and all that stuff, and also to get the contact information. So Jessica, what I'll probably do is just come over and, you know, at some point, maybe even tomorrow, depending on how things work, and just get cell phone numbers, and so that we can
Right.
call people up and say, what was your experience? And because I think that
And-
part of the outreach is finding out what really annoyed people.
And would you be willing to, have.
Go on the
have
record with
somebody-
that stuff, yes.
I mean, whether it's good or bad, transparency, I think it's good, and,
100%. Yeah, what do we need? What worked, and if it didn't work, what can we brainstorm ideas to make it better?
fortunately or unfortunately, whatever, there's not that many other systems on the island. There's a few hydro action ones.
Yeah, I talked to the person that has the hydro action. And
Right.
they said it was very expensive and the contractor was really annoying, so.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think we need to just, I think doing that will help us, going forward to try and get the, bumps in the road smoothed out. And get it, people, over that perception that it's a big pain in the neck.
It
It
is.
is a big pain in the
It
neck.
is a big- don't be afraid of it.
I mean, I will say,
I think-
I am,
I
I
think
feel like
I think the money is an issue too. I mean, people they question, am I gonna get this money? There are a lot of people who don't have $35,000-$40,000 to pay either up forward or something doesn't come through, whatever. I think that's a big part of the issue is that
I think for the most part, the people have gotten the money that, that they've applied for.
Well, until the county ran out.
Well, I mean, even, I don't know how many people haven't gotten that money. Most of the people have gotten it that I know of, the people that we've processed through and we've put out money. Most of those people may have more information about this than I do.
The approvals take so long, it's like,
Well, I mean, I'm still, like for years and, like I've been like, a long march with the health department with my daughter's system. It's like, well, now all you have to do is this, and Joe is right. We just got a water test again, another water test. And this one was $1,500. To do all of the.
Before or after the installation?
This is the water test the well had to get moved.
Okay, right.
And, the well had a problem initially because it's in the area near the medical center and there was the old gas station thing there and there was this, and even the health department did do a test and they couldn't come up with what the thing was, whatever it was that was making the water smell, and whatever. So finally I just, what we ended up doing as remediation, we pulled the point to a different up, like 15 feet, I think it was.
Mm.
And now,
and that solved the problem?
according to the water test, which now they wanted to test again to make sure that, it wasn't something aberration, we don't need to have treatment on the water. But because there were the dates in the original well driller certificate and then the alteration, the amended thing, the date was a little wrong, so now they need an affidavit. And it's like, yeah, and the well driller's like, I don't care about this. He's done with it,
that's, that third dimension of how far down is the screen on the well, that's something that we I guess the well drillers think they know.
Well, I mean, it's not an exact science. you
Yeah.
know? I mean, like, especially when you have introduced some other issue in an area,
Yeah,
that, and nobody can pinpoint exactly that other issue, what it is. You presume it's something that was in the ground from the gas station.
right.
But they don't necessarily know. I mean, there's a septic system across the street from where she lives of a restaurant, it's, I don't know. I do know though that, it was like almost instantaneous. The smell went away, and the water was not bad, but she still doesn't drink it, but. Anyway, it's a long process but we need to get all this minutia squared away so that people are not fearful of going forward with it.
Yeah.
And that's, and make it so that it's sort of as easy as it can be.
Well, also to Joe's point though, so now I'm gonna get my water tested by the county, not Shelter Island, where at least there's a reasonable. You have access to the folks that are, the sort of Damocles from the county, who knows what they'll do?
Well, I mean, if you have bad water,
You wanna fix
you
it.
need to fix it,
Well, I agree with
like,
Or treat it,
or, I mean,
Well,
we'll
fix
fix it or treat it, same thing, I mean.
Everybody's
And I
gonna wanna
think,
be
it's like, I don't feel so good, but, I don't wanna know what I got,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just better to, it's cancer, and I know what I'm gonna do about it, and I'm gonna, it's better to know what the problem is than to, not know.
I agree, but,
Right.
okay, what if I have to dig another well? I don't have the resources to dig another well.
Well, maybe they come to us and ask for money, I don't know, we don't, that's not a program that we
Yeah,
have.
not on our list.
But, water quality, if somebody has a bad, but even that is sort of like Russian roulette,
Yeah,
because you could put a well in, another well in, and it still won't be good.
Welcome to home ownership.
Mr. Blandings, remember that movie, right? Cary
Mr.
Grant?
Blanding? No.
Mr. Blandings builds his dream house,
Oh.
like in 1947, I think
I'll
it
have to check
is.
that out.
Was it Cary Grant? I
Cary
think,
Grant.
and,
I don't know who was, but they had the contractor there and the well driller. It's hilarious.
Landings, huh?
Mr. Blandings builds his dream house.
Uh-huh.
It's like, and it was sort of like a,
it's supposed to be a contractor's movie.
no, well, maybe,
I know.
there was one with, something about, Dream House or something that was, done in 2000 sometime, it was like the same kind of thing. It was, Steve,
I think it was the basis of Green Acres too,
Yeah.
and there was another movie, that house that,
right,
I-
whatever, yeah, I mean.
Money Pit, there you go.
Money Pit, that's the
Yeah,
one
yeah.
I was thinking of, Money Pit.
So that's different than
That's
Mr. Blandings?
different.
Okay,
That's more of a, that was, with Steve Martin, right?
Yes, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of this diversion.
Right, fresh pond remediation.
Okay, so remediation, just an update, involves the short-term, homeowner financed harvesting of harmful algae, mats and such. That's finally, got the approval about a month or so ago from the DEC, and that's gonna happen, I think, in July, I think is when it's gonna happen. So that's a good thing. However, the main DEC approval of the remediation pilot project is still slowly turning, and I'm hoping, we can still have Thiel not out of office yet, and still kind of help push that. It'd be good just to get that, and then, there's a lot of stuff going on about the grant, and if they're gonna apply for the grant. I'm not Not sure if anything happened on Tuesday. But, the town board was sort of split on, going to the grant or not going for the grant. But I think from what I heard from the meeting, that work session, I think they're sort of now in alignment again. So that's promising. I mean, it's going to be a matching grant, so there's going to be, maybe somebody will come to us for some, the homeowners will probably try and raise money as they have been trying. But the DEC needs to kick this thing out and get it approved. So that, because I think the grant needs the approval,
Right,
like the approved DEC thing to go forward.
sure.
So, I mean, it'd be too bad to miss another grant cycle.
Has, is this for the pilot?
Well, the
Or is
pilot
this
and,
for the actual
well,
treatment?
they broke it down and, based on the availability of grants into a pilot that, will actually demonstrate that it works. And going forward for the next, a lot of the pilot stuff would be used,
Right.
the equipment and stuff would be used in the main event. The main event would have, would also include the operation costs, which that was that whole, estimation of, 800,000 or whatever it was. So I think this first section of it is 375,000. But, the thing about this is, this could be a model for other problem ponds on Long Island.
I mean, it is an experiment, right? It's
I mean,
not,
there have been areas where that has been used, not in exactly the same way, but science would say that this should work. So hence the pilot project. But I mean, it's essentially, if you think about it, it's like you're filtering the water, and recharging it, I always had a hang up with that, when they were talking about recharging it into the ground. I said, that's a lot of water, to try and stuff back into the ground,
Yeah.
and then where would you do it? That was the reason to move on to something, other thoughts. So I said, well, why can't we put it back into the water if it's filtered? Why not? So that's what they had finally decided to do. So, it's ongoing. Hopefully, it gets resolved. The financial report we have in our packet, Amber was unable to be here with us, but she did give us an update here, which hasn't changed that much really from what we, already knew.
There's still 31 waiting.
Right. Right, so that's encumbered.
And she's gone through and eliminated those.
Those who are not going forward or somehow happen,
So what is those 31? This.
Me, one, or not me, but my daughter, is one of them.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know, the rest of the 30, I'm not sure about.
my understanding is that the county is, they want to be able to, you can't, if you haven't gotten a significant approval from the county, they won't offer the state grant even. I had.
Going forward, I don't know of these, who has not got a red stamp
Yeah,
from the county. I mean, I don't know. And that might be something we should reach out and see. I mean, do all these 31 people have the red stamp? That would allow them to do what they want to do.
Even if they decide to pay for it themselves.
Well, even, yeah, I mean, they can't do anything
Without
unless
the stamp.
they have that design with a red stamp.
Yeah.
Which then becomes the basis of the green stamp eventually.
and if you start to do anything, the county says, sorry, you started, you dug that hole, forget it.
No, it's not retroactive to the county at all. that's,
My understanding it is. I mean, if you started to dig your hole and then you said, now we want to get this, we haven't gotten this done, but we want to get a head start, they say.
no, that,
Too bad.
I'm thinking we're agreeing, we're
Yeah.
agreeing.
Okay, well, it's good. It's good to agree.
But even though the county doesn't have money, the state still has money to do.
Yeah.
State has
State-
still money, and on the, I think there's gonna be on the ballot, a referendum about
November, yep.
this 0.5%
Yes,
of, that will be renewable funding for these water quality projects,
right.
And hopefully that,
Well, even though they have-
but there's not
Reserve.
there's not renewable funding. I mean, I think they were getting money from here and there, and, it wasn't 100% fixed
Right.
how they were getting the money. And some of the, obviously the leadership in the county has changed, the people who were there, even in the health, there was a new bunch of people in the health department, and then some of them left.
Hmm.
So to answer your question, I don't know, of the 31, how many just have the go-ahead from the health department to move ahead? There may be some of that, and I don't know how much vetting when Amber went through it, or if it was just people who just said, now we're not doing it.
I don't know, the SharePoint has the Excel file on this, which should have the list
Right.
of all the people, and we could take a look at that, and then,
Right.
talk about this again next
We
month.
can go through their applications and just see if they,
Yeah.
but a lot of the applications, when they were made to us, didn't have the stamp.
Right.
They were just, the contractor's statement that this was gonna be the way it is, and they thought it was gonna be this way or that way. And, the engineer letter, that's all they needed. They didn't need the final approval. Like in this, Roar, she does have the stamped plan.
Oh,
Oh, I didn't realize.
yeah, by the county.
I mean, to go ahead, not to say that they're gonna get a grant.
Right.
But
Does both the red and green stamp come from the county, or does one come from the state? and
no,
one
they're
comes from-
both from the county health department,
The county is.
the Bureau of Wastewater
Executive.
Management.
Give me the
Executive of the
difference
state.
between them again?
Excuse me?
What's the difference between the red stamp and the green stamp?
The red stamp is the approved design to go forth and build it.
Okay.
The green stamp is
You've
that
done
you
it.
built the approved design and it corresponds to what the plan is.
Okay.
They're pretty picky about, did you move this water line? It showed that you're supposed to come in here and you came in there. Well, it was a giant rock over here or something, and then, so then you have to redraw on the survey where the lines are. I mean, they want to get it right, I suppose. What the heck, but, and if they find, there's all sorts of problems that arise, I mean, closing, just in general, in construction, closing out a permit is like, hard work. You almost need somebody just doing that.
There are people who just do that.
There are people that just do that, but they gotta be paid, whatever.
Yep, it's like getting sign approval.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, old business, that we need to further discuss, anything?
I got that.
You had shown us the thing about the
Georgia Capon.
Georgia Capon
Yeah.
seminar thing.
When is that?
That's,
June
June 20th.
20th, yeah, at 7 o'clock. You gotta register. If you register, you get a Zoom link, or you can go, it's at the East Hampton Town Hall.
Who is the presenter there?
There's 4 of them, I think.
Gobler.
Gobler, Thomas Valerie, I think is his name, and this other woman, I mean, I can pull it up on my
Right.
phone if you want, but interesting thing, I was talking to Linda McCarthy, and I guess their Menantic Creek is getting Tom and his group coming in, and they're doing the kelp and the seagrass and all this other stuff, moving it within the creek and monitoring different things, and
Is there seagrass in Manana Creek?
they're planting it,
Oh, they're planting it.
yeah.
What's weird, well, I guess maybe if it's, I think planting like clams or scallops or anything would be a little,
Well,
well, as you've seen the numbers that,
the numbers are, are bad because the nitrogen is bad,
Well, there's no oxygen.
I mean, and, yeah, the oxygen is bad, so whether,
Well,
like,
they're
I don't know.
they're
Isn't that-
studying
This is
it.
Tom,
I think his name's Tom Valley or
oh, okay,
something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's good that they're getting hooked up with Stony Brook and that whole group and that's a big
I mean,
thing.
Gobler did his thesis on, on Shelter Island, on tidal wetlands,
Oh, really?
I believe so.
That I did not know.
So he's, sort of plugged into that. I mean, just everything is so intertwined
Yes.
on Shelter Island, that, one thing affects another thing. And everybody, that's what we have to make people realize too, more than they do. I mean, we've tried, of course, but we need to keep trying.
His name's Thomas Valet, Varley. Anyway,
I'll ask Linda. See where that's at.
I just thought it was interesting.
Okay.
It'd be interesting.
Well, the fact that these things are happening and residents are doing it is important.
Right, yeah.
The Mananac Peninsula people, the Mananac Creek keepers.
Yeah.
All of it is good.
I agree.
Anything else that anybody would like to bring up?
I think it's break time.
Well, then, make that
I make a
golden
motion.
I'll make a motion that we say what a successful meeting.
And you were seconding, is that a second to his motion?
Oh, yes, so that's my second, yes.
All right. I would say that, let's have a vote.
Aye,
All right, thank you.
Aye, aye, aye.
all right. I enjoyed